Welcome. It is your host, SDG from the Black and Brilliant Podcast, and we have a very, very special guest. We got my boy Young Bleed, you know what I mean, from Baton Rouge. You know the infamous, the legendary, no better, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir. Young Bleed, man, what's been going on with you, bruh?
And all kind of stuff, trying to keep up with it, man. Nowadays I run a label. Of course, I'm keeping up the Young Bleed legacy. Touring in and out here and there, and spot dating throughout the country since the COVID, and just pushing the line, man. 20 plus artists under the umbrella. So yeah, it's something every day, man. Absolutely.
What's the name of the label?
Um, Trap Door Entertainment, man.
Trap Door Entertainment. Ooh, boy, we gotta get some of that merch rolling, man.
Yeah, I got that in process, man. I mean, in progress. So yeah, I'm stacking up, man, doing the whole merch thing, marketing thing. So yeah, I got my own liquor, man. I got that's it. Yeah, this is my speakeasy, man. Don Bleed, Carleon Speakeasy, the Still Vodka, man, 80%. Coming out of South Carolina by way my homie the rapping grandpa and Jerry do me a favor, man. It's a distillery, man. So yeah, I got a few things going on. Marijuana strain called Carleon Chronic on the way. So yeah, I'm super busy, man. And I found it.
Man, well, I'm gonna have to get my hands on some of that. That boy got that alcohol, man, bro. You got a lot of stuff rolling, man. So what's been going on with Young Bleed, man? I wanna, I feel like I ain't give a good enough introduction, man. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a little bit more that need to come behind that. You know what I'm saying?
I guess I didn't say this, but well enough for me. I appreciate that. I'm honored. But Mr. How You Do That there himself, man, original concentration camp, CeeLo Records, Lemon Records, you know what I mean, on it to Priority Records and so on and so forth. We get down the line, but just for briefing to bring everybody up to date, the new generation. Yeah, I'm the original Mr. How You Do That there, producer, writer, / Happy Perez, man.
Yeah, you said it best. You said it best. So, who is Young Bleed, and how did you get the name Young Bleed first and foremost?
Oh man, long true life story, man. I tell everybody this. I'm about old as hip hop now, man. I was born, I was born in it, not sworn in it. It's in and not on me. So I come in the world that way, man. Actually, my mother had a complicated childbirth, and she was only able to have 2 kids in life. My brother, Lucky Knuckles, from the concentration camp, was my only real brother in the world.
Word.
But I had to say this. Shouts out to my uncle, Jawan Rockmine, out there in Jacksonville, Florida. Actually, when I was coming up, in 8 days into the 70s, I'm 74, baby. My uncle played African eccentric instruments, meaning congas, bongas, anything that wasn't electric. The hand African piano and stuff like that, the shakers, and you know what I mean?
Word.
So that type of thing, my mother described when she was pregnant. He played them drums all the time. He used to run her crazy. Because I used to flip upside down and run her crazy from the inside, I guess, hearing the drum and feeling that vibe. So by the time I was born, but when I was still in the embryo, my mother used to read me Dr. Seuss. She'll tell it. And about 8 months or so, I was reading Dr. Seuss. So when you say R.A.P., rap, rhythm, and poetry, here again, I'm born that way, man. And just
Word.
so much family lineage, man, from my grandfather on down, was a real live blues man and blind in his later years. So real live Dolomite Ray Charles, Rudy Ray Moore was his friend, and real life, there's different ways, man. When you talk about just birth into just what I grew into, I grasped my thing about 4th grade, 9 years old. But the blues, the gospel, I was singing in the Southern Baptist Church when I was a kid with my grandmother. I was in an opera called Carmen before I was 10 years old, singing soprano. Shouts out to my partner and brother, Chris Miller, you know what I mean? We was the only 2 black kids from a elementary school called University Terrace. But somewhere along that line, within that 9-year span, you know what I mean, before 10 years old,
Right.
rap was evolving, and of course coming to the South. So when I saw that, I saw my thing. Actually, I made a poem out of Run DMC's first self-titled album. It had a record on it called Wake Up. So I created my own form of Wake Up and wrote that in the poetry pamphlet that was going around to all the elementary schools. I can't remember my poetry teacher in the 4th grade, but she taught us haiku poems and different things like that. So I could freestyle about 82 and was battling
That's
on
that's
down.
dope as hell, boy. That's dope as hell.
What I mean, but I started to pick up my penmanship about the 9th grade based off my poetry teacher. My mother wrote a little poetry, and of course, she gave me the Dr. Seuss thing since a kid. And my aunts and uncles, everybody was kind of musical. There's some kind of artist form or um, talented, man. Rest in peace to Steve McNair, my cousin.
Mhm.
Um, just so much different things that led into my evolution. You go back to the 50s when you talking to Alabama church bombing, the McNair girl and the little girl that was one of the kids that was murdered was my cousin. So long before that, I had a history that I was born into, that I learned my family history. Go back as far as the 50s.
Mhm.
I can remember family roots, and I'm sure we extend back to Africa like everybody else, but I'm doing trying to check out ancestry.com and different ways to figure my heritage. Anybody born in America, we mixed blooded. So it's 4 different Indian tribes that I'm a part of: the Cherokee, the Choctaws, the Blackfoots, and the Chippewas that I know for sure, both sides of my family. But going back to the 50s, when you know about the Alabama church bombing, the 4 little girls that was murdered in that church, one of them was my cousin. The McNair girl was my cousin. Of course, she'll be older than me if she'd have lived that long. But
What?
that history, the first Black man to ever fly in space was Ryan McNair. That's my family, on down to Steve McNair. You see what I'm saying? So Doug Williams is my cousin. So that type of thing. I had a lot of stuff to look up to and grad as far as my history, but all the way down to my mother's father, my grandfather, James Donald Goodbleed Johnson Sr. I spent a lot of days with him, and all the way up until his last day. He died in the Veterans Hospital in New Orleans. He was a World War II veteran.
You
So
froze again. You froze again. There you go. There you go. It done froze.
okay, we're bringing it all the way up into my granddad, in which you asked me originally about my name. My
Mhm.
granddad and my mother's father's name was James Donald Goodbleed Johnson Sr., and they called him Goodbleed in the street. But if you had altercation with him, he was good to bleed you. So he said all his friends and family used to call him that, Goodbleed. So I spent a lot of days with him on up until his demise. And like I was saying, he died in New Orleans Veteran Hospital like in 84 or something like that. So if
Rest in
I
peace.
started rapping, yeah, appreciate that.
Mhm.
About 83, I told him, Papa, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a rapper and I'm gonna have me a record company. And as I just showed you, it's official, Trap Dough Entertainment. So
Right
long
on.
time coming, man. So it's off, chip off the old block, off my family heritage. I'm the one that incorporated it for the family.
That's dope. That's dope. That's good to hear, man. That's a lot. That's a long family tree, bruh.
Oh,
It's a
man,
lot of limbs on that tree, man.
hey, look, and that's hovering. That ain't touching the surface to scratch the surface. So that's hovering. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. So what? So I know you said you learned the poetry and stuff like that, but what was the pivotal point that made you like, all right, this is what I'm finna do for real. Like this is what I mean. This is the direction I'm going for real.
Like I said, something that grabbed me with having all those music elements in the family, turntables, you name it. I was a down south B-boy, before the D-boy. I could freestyle and do different things, sing and all that. So them elements are combined and come into one once I
Mhm.
started putting that pad to the pen, really like 82, 83. And like I say, just loving that evolution of hip hop from the East Coast. I had a cousin that used to go out to I forget what part of New York, but every summer his mother take him up there. He'll come back with TDK, the Maxell tapes, and
Mhm.
called Kiss FM with rest in peace to Mr. Magic from the OG Mr. Magic. Shouts out to Red Alert and Marlon Mars. So I used to have the first mixes that they was doing before well along is with the Rap Attack album series that Mr. Magic was making, and it was just displaying all the artists coming out of
Mr.
New York.
Magic was big, bruh.
Yeah,
Mr.
absolutely.
Magic, rest in power to him too. Mr. Magic was big.
Absolutely. So, on up into my partner, Mr. Magic. So, learning that it's funny how ironic and life will narrow itself down. Ain't nothing new under the sun. So, I had access to all those elements underground and by coast in a sense. I listened to all kind of genres of music. So I got my glitch when I realized that it's a magnetism when you writing and you composing or producing anything. It's a vibe and it's something that's alive in you, and you can try to do a million other things. My first love was football and eventually basketball, baseball. I did everything all along. And other kid did elementary school wise and little league and after school, you know what I mean? That type of thing. Just try to find a way out.
Did you have any success with the sports?
Yeah, I was pretty good. Fair enough. You know what I mean? CB level and anything I participated in, I excelled. You know what I mean? We had
Right.
a baseball team like the Bad News Bad. We started with ragged clothes after a while, but eventually we got the uniform, won a championship, and different things like that. So I always had that hustle and that drive and that motivation from the family and the community and the guys and girls I grew up with that kept pushing me to this focal point. And a long way from New York and definitely California at the time, it had to
Hmm.
be something that held on to me, that kept me on the path, and eventually, the rest was history. Years later,
Got you.
that's
Got you. That's dope. That's dope. Especially having, a lot of people think rappers aren't similar to like, same childhood type of struggles, man. And it's like you got to bring people back down to earth. Like, bro, I was just like you know what I'm saying?
absolutely spoken like a
Just
true gentleman. That's the glue that hold us all together. When sometimes we wouldn't get along, man to man, man to woman, child. But it's the universal language is music. It's a few things that's universal. Marijuana smoke for the majority. You know what I mean? It's becoming legal nowadays. But the one universal thing that I believe keep us close to God, the heavens, all the sounds that's in the universe is that universal language, which is music. We all could sing along, but we can't talk along at the same time. It's considered babbling. You have a lot of noise in the room, but everybody
absolutely.
trying to catch the vibe and sing that one nation under a groove, man.
That's free game. That's free game. Anybody listening?
Yeah,
So,
man.
how was it growing up in Louisiana? Like, what was the hardest struggle you would consider? Like, growing up there.
Just opportunity, man. It's the same but different now. And me being a 70s baby coming fresh off them 60s, so a lot of police brutality that was inside my family, my grandfathers and uncles and my mother, and I'm gonna tell you a million stories. So I grew into something. The block that I was on, it was, in one sense I call a murder block
You
because
from the
it's
same hood, Boosie, right?
same street, same
Same
down
street,
the block,
same street.
Garfield Street. Yeah,
Got
Jesus,
you.
I coined the term years ago. But so from what he picking up on, for those that's in tune to that, then rewind the tape a little bit. He come from something that was before him as well. So we grew into an environment, South Baton Rouge, you know what I mean? Shouts out to the South Side Wrecking Crew and different elements that we had, far as um similar to gangs, but more hood bang, where we were separated
Mhm.
different hoods, and if we got along, we got along the same wars in the streets, the state fairs, and wherever we saw people, schools, elementary school, high school, middle. So I could tell you a lot of drastic stories, and I was seeing stuff at 5 years old in the classroom that we used to run our kindergarten teacher out the class. You have to go get the principal. Now I
Mm.
look back at it at that and say, man, we were 5 years old when she couldn't control us. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So I grew with that type of environment. Whether you was involved or not involved, that walked home after school, depending on what alleyway you cut through or what corner you turned on. Guys was fighting out there, guns, sticks, knives, belt buckles. Yeah,
Damn.
blood at an early age and different things like that that the average kid, you know what I mean, succumbing to your mind state shouldn't have, you know what I mean, shouldn't or should be
Shouldn't be exposed to that
oh,
young.
what I'm trying to say. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So that type of environment, you know what I mean? They call Louisiana the dream state, and it's just that. If you not don't have connections, family connections, or what have we, and have a dream to do something different than the norm. It's a two-way street. I ain't go to penitentiary, parish prison, you know what I mean, or the graveyard, and still to this day, you know what I mean?
Right. Okay. So let's stop right there on that word dream, the dream state.
Mhm.
I feel like Alabama is quite similar, actually. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Well, I say this, like Pimp C used to say, what we consider old South is Alabama back to Texas. Georgia's the same, the birth of the Ku Klux Klan, Stone Mountain and
Hmm.
the rebel flag. So we all one the same. It's just American history before we narrow it down to ATL, Baton Rouge, H-Town, as far as rap music. but far as American history, if you know your history and what Bob Marley was singing about Africa, unite and all that type of thing, anybody know the hip hop history, it was I think it was Grandmaster Cash went to Jamaica and saw, a DJ playing records on 2 turntables, the dub place, and brought that essence back to the Bronx, and that we call it, and we, formulated our own culture, which is hip hop, all the way around the board. So here again, that universal language, we all speaking the same thing, nothing new under the sun, from Africa to here, and so on and so forth. So that historic part of the South, and still being old South, man, David Banner used to say Louisiana and Mississippi is twin brothers. You see what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? We look at the movie Ghost of Mississippi, and a lot of people don't know about Medgar Evers, rest in power, for the civil rights movement and SNCC and all that back in the 60s, you know what I mean, before our time. On that movie, Brian, the guy that played Brian Della Beckowitz, that was the Ku Klux Klan murderer of Medgar Evers, in his driveway in front of his wife and kids. He says a lot of backwoods are back streets between Louisiana and Mississippi, but that go the same as Alabama. If you didn't roll those hills and know what it is, it's the same kind of long street, down the street kind of connection.
Yeah, it's the same type of terrain, once you start moving back there. Like, I used to say some stupid stuff all the time when I was young, like, but I don't know how you supposed to be slaves, boy, 'cause I just duck off in them backwoods. And then as I became a truck driver, I started seeing how many miles away this, you know what I mean? And people living back there with all them Klan flags and rebel flags and all that. I'm like, whoa, like, boy, ain't no way you want to run from that, bro.
Nah, you couldn't. My pops, my real daddy was a I'm saying my stepdaddy, but my real daddy was a truck driver as well. All the back roads and all that. So, as a kid, I give a shout out to my daddy. I'm born for a microphone because he had me on CBs and walkie-talkies. He'll leave away from home, drive all the way from Tijuana, Mexico to wherever, in the country, driving for what truck company he was working for and carrying all type of things. And of course, he was a teamster, in the Jimmy Hoffa time, different things like that. So I got a lot of that history, but being away from home, the way he kept a connection with me, breaker 19, wherever he was in the country, and they had a secret connection at the house. So this is before I was rhyming and putting my thing together. But when I look back at it, all the elements was there, you know what I mean?
Okay, so let's swap it up. Just a quick second. So you become, well, you born in the hip hop, you born in the poetry as we know as hip hop today. But what is before I ask some of the major questions, because I got a lot of rapper friends that's not on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they feel like, is rap go just one way, you know what I mean? And it ain't no just one road to success.
No,
so what was the biggest disappointment before you got on? Like, what was, I know you probably got led astray a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? Or you felt like things were supposed to happen, and like, what was the biggest disappointment that you had before you really got on, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I used to say this, and my homies used to say this, hey man, you got to go to New York. You an alien down here. I used to walk through the projects and doing this, and in my head having a sound mind with my bigger cousins, and they'd say, what's wrong with little cuz? He retarded. But I can hear music. I'm in a whole nother zone doing what they doing. We'll go to the concert. They'll fight, chase the girls. I want to stand up on the speakers, on the chairs and watch LL and them that came to our town. So the greatest disappointment was I love where I'm from, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't change it for the world. But the opportunity wasn't there. So back in the days, we would start the demo tape. Take a demo tape, 3 songs, and mail that to New York, Def Jam or somebody. So that's a long way off, man. It ain't what you know, it's who you know. So
right.
That half of them demo tapes, unless it's hand delivered, it'll never get heard. So we shine on ourselves as artists. I tell a lot of guys, some of the most talented guys I know in the underground that hadn't had the break that I had a chance to have, or a lot of artists. So it's don't be discouraged, recognize where you at. You know what I mean? Know where you come from to know where you at, to know where you're going or where you want to go, and then find that map. You see what I'm saying? You got to get out, get up, get out, and get something. You know what I mean? True statement.
Absolutely. Do you have any songs you felt like that was supposed to be bigger than your notorious song, that what people know you for, before we get on that?
Um, I say this and more from the audience standpoint, my whole Balls in My Word album, at least 6 to however many songs on that. And some was being prepped to be the next single and follow up. But I ran into the record company, you know,
Priority?
yeah, kind of break up and all that type of thing. When I was rising, they was coming down. So I fell right into the middle of that, and I didn't get my overall just due to highlight the rest of those songs. Once that took off, I mean, still to this day, they play that record. And, the internet didn't exist back then. But you can
Mm,
look on the internet now, and it's over, million views, millions of views, and different things like that. So, um, blessing and slightly maybe a curse. And I'm saying for as the industry and just the corporation and the rug that I had under me and was set to do 7 albums back to back and was only able to do 2 on that major scale without the fall of Priority Records and so on and so forth. So from that, yeah, I was disappointed and still to this day, and I still do my thing. I can't come in the independent game to sell tapes on the corner in the high schools, the mom and pop stores, and record stores. So I come out that hand distributing, you know what I mean? I straight out the hustle game into the rap game. I had a backpack of this, that, and the other, plus some tapes, you know what I mean? And just where I lived at the end of that block, it was a hustle block, a million stores, some of the biggest dope boys that come out of our city, everything was right there. So I tried to put that in a certain nucleus and create my own, what I call nowadays, digital dope. You see what I'm saying?
absolutely.
Yeah, it's the same as whipping the Pyrex, same way you whipping that mouse, you know what I mean? Or mixing these
Absolutely.
records. So I learned from the street game how to incorporate myself in the music game by selling tapes on the corner.
So where is Priority Records right now? Did they just fall all the way off, or did
Um,
they turn into another label? Or
I think it's somewhat like that. I'm not all the way defined on it. Maybe I know they merged with Capitol when I was leaving, you know what I mean? And they might have
mm,
had a small branch in the Capitol Records building. It just never was the same, you know what I mean? And that fall process. So I just kind of went back independent and just, a lot of subsidiary labels. Shouts out to West Coast Mafia, Selecto Hits, Roy Jones and Bodyhead. So a
hmm
lot of co-op deals, Strange, Tech Nine, those guys over there, Strange Music. So, I was able to maintain from an independent standpoint after that fall of Priority with the hopes of something else, swinging along, which never did. So, none of that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second, all right? All right, we back rolling.
That's
So
what's
what year do you say most of your success came from? Like what year was your breakout year? Was it 97 or 98?
my biggest, but locally and regional, like 94, 96 with C-Loc Records, and the records we was doing locally and spreading out to Mississippi and Alabama and Texas. We had
Hmm
started building that brand, and it was starting to bubble. And within that time, P was making the Body movie and coming back to New Orleans and all that type of thing. And him and Loc in some way got connected. And of course, P had that deal with Priority. So I was one of the guys, you know what I mean, he was interested in and had that record at the time. We released really the original name to How You Do That was A Fool, you know what I mean? So that was my first solo record on C-Loc Records. You see what I'm saying? On the Concentration Camp self-titled first Concentration Camp album. And when that record took off, it was #1 on the radio in Baton Rouge. Shouts out to 94.1, my brother Jewel Jackson, and so on and so forth. So in that, we kind of ran into, let's say, if we was about 10, 20% on our way, and P had the rest of the gamut, the other 80% had access to California Priority. So I signed with Priority the summer of 1997. 3 months after the death of the Notorious Big, 6 months after the death of Tupac, and signed right around the corner where Biggie was murdered. So, right in that summer of 97. So it was, bittersweet in that sense, coming off of all that and walking into that environment. It was a crazy, euphoric kind of journey for me. And I had to get my feet on the ground and so on and so forth and get a grip of it. And just as fast as it came, all but as fast as it went. You see what I'm saying? With that fold of Priority about,
Absolutely.
2001. So I did like 2 albums, 99 and going into the millennium. And excuse me, and everything started to change, you know what I mean? really before that, you know what I mean? If you look at the difference between the first two records and the disconnection between me and the concentration camp and No Limit, quote unquote, you know, not really officially signed it to No Limit. P, I give a shout out to giving me my deal and giving me over that priority. But I was never official No Limit artist, streetwise family member, and it's all love. But that was my evolution at that faster pace. So 1997, the Body track released. The record was phenomenal in the movie and on the
Yeah, I
soundtrack.
was just about to ask.
Yeah,
It hit like #1 on the billboards.
yeah, yeah.
In
Getting to
that.
that, going in 1998, that January that would follow it, it was a #1 hip hop and R&B Billboard record and number 10 or 12 on the pop chart. So it was Billboard twice.
That's
That
crazy.
January '98. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's crazy. So okay, so I remember now this is a huge generational difference. Um, but I remember how you do that there when that first came out, man. My cousin, man, they played that shit
Yeah.
till you know what I mean, till the lights came off, came back on, man. You know what I mean? That's just what it was.
That's
Man, we used to play that shit, you know, playing a video game, you know, getting smoked after getting killed after killed to keep running, you know what I mean? Keep running it back.
I San Andreas, yeah.
Yeah, I know you said it was named. What you said it was named "The Fool"
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
So how did you come up with that record? Because when I first heard it, like I said, I originally thought it was Master P's song, but it's actually your song.
Yeah. You know, since a child, if I was rapping at 8, 9, by 11, 12, you know, I started to get my own first turntable, mixer, and started meeting neighborhood DJs that are teaching me what to do with that type of equipment, reverb. Rest in peace to my cousin Adrian Cato. We called DJ AD, man. He was my first DJ when I was 11 years old. He used to actually make the house party tapes, and we'll go to the house party and not necessarily have the equipment or bring the equipment, but have a tape that, you know, 45 minutes on each side of a TDK or a Maxell, and that was at a pump for the parties, you know, slow jams and whatever popping rap jams he'll put in a mix. And I was able to grow into that. You know, I grew up watching Beat Street Breaking and Crush Groove and stuff like that, and had, you know, different guys in our city that did graffiti too. So I was, you know, a hip hop head, all the elements of hip hop. You know, when I write, I call that lyrical graffiti. You know, my love for graffiti. So that type of thing, man. Yeah, it's just you open up so many chambers when you ask me that. Forgive me for my shortcomings, you know what I mean? But being specific on trying to conclude what you asked me originally.
How'd you come up with the song, the name of the song? Because you said it's a fool, and then it's like how you do that there.
Okay,
so
well, I got
damn,
you.
how you know what I'm saying?
I got you. You done talk me back on track, so check it out.
Yeah.
I mentioned that DJ element because ever since I was a kid, that's how I created, like a DJ. In my back room, I had 2 turntables and all the Ebony Jet posters and LL posters and Houdini, you name them, you know what I mean? Whoever was famous in hip hop, I didn't have wallpaper on my wall. I covered my wall with all magazine poster pictures. You see what I'm saying? So my whole back room was there, records all over the place. I just steal my pop records and get slapped, you know what I mean? For breaking needles and all that type of thing. My pop had $75 needles, and I'll wait till he go to work and scratch on them records. Or be cleaning a needle and pop the needle off the record and got to figure out how to replace that record. I mean, the needle before you get home. But having all those records, here's the elements. From my uncles and all of them had records. So I grew up listening to Parliament, the Curtis Mayfield, Superfly movie, the Superfly soundtrack. Of course, mentioning Rudy Ray Moore, my grandfather, oldest son, you know, was named James Donald Johnson Jr., but they called him Peter Wheatstraw, the devil's son-in-law. So he used to listen to Blowfly, all that all the time. So he again taking all those elements, I combined a Parliament bass line, a Aretha Franklin sample, a Earth, Wind and Fire sample over some hip hop drums, which came from my Uzi Wells a Ton from Public Enemy. Is one set of the drums. There's 2 drum arm patterns in the original How You Do That, as well as the remastered version. So I had all those elements in my head, and plus I was the rapper, so I knew how I wanted to flow over them. And what I did was give with our producer Happy Perez at the time, and he knew a little bit more about programming than me. You know, I could beatbox, I beatbox battle and all that. Anything on the wall just off of basic essentials, how I was built, I could do that. But I had to learn the tape game at the time, the audio game more or less. And those
Mm.
guys was a little bit more advanced than me, in particular Happy. And we sat down and put our head together and combined those elements. And once it was done, I kept saying, man, I might have wrote the rhyme scheme about 6, 7 times. If I say this the verse I want to put on it. Well, really, my original song had 3 verses. That's called The Fool. And where that come from is I wanted to sample from shouts out to King T and the Alcoholics, you know, Compton, California, one of Compton's first mainstream rappers. Had an album called Act the Fool with the Johnny Guitar Watson sample. So I wanted to sample it. I'm finna act a fool. So instead of sampling, I just said it and made it a part of my rhyme scheme based on this one fact. After all those elements were put together, gumbo pie style, I say, oh man, you know what people gonna say about this record? Man, that's a fool. I say, that's what I'm gonna call it. You see what I'm saying? The hook was how you do that there, was just asking the question, how I come from the struggle of Louisiana and visionary wise could see where that record was headed, not knowing, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
It became a #1 record. So the question in my backlash was people was gonna say how you did that or how you do that there. Yeah, so that's what that's all about.
So let me ask you this: where did Master P come from in this where did not come from, but where did he come in at in this record?
Actually, like I said, my solo joint was #1 in Baton Rouge.
Right.
Around from that to ATL and all that, I was hearing, man, guys is, you know, hey, they underground, they was on the concentration camp. So anybody Southern regional had heard that original version and it was spreading. So of course, with P coming down and being in cahoots with Loke at the time, the rest was kind of evolution. You know, I was doing that with no aim for No Limit or the Body soundtrack or nothing. And, you know, due to their connection, he heard the record and sent the message back and asked would I love to do a remix. But I like to do a remix more rather and come see about this deal and a video with Priority Records. And of course, I was working a day job, still hustling. So one weekend I took off and the rest was history.
Hold on. So pause it. You
Yeah.
had a day job, but you were still signed though.
Now, well, I was signed to CeeLo Records, my homeboy local label. You know,
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
the artist, but his label was named his name. You know what I mean? So everything was CeeLo Records official. So I birthed, of course, the concentration camp on the label, and we started to branch out as the extra artist that was a part of CeeLo Records. But I signed a hood contract with my homie. You know what I mean? And from that, yeah, you know, all the paperwork and everything came to play to get me out that situation and put me in a better situation, which was Priority Records on the strength of Master P.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, that was kind of like the trade-off with doing a remix to that song that eventually went to the Body Move and the Body soundtrack before I even released the Young Bleed solo debut. Other than prior to that, the Concentration Camp self-titled first compilation.
So what was it like working with Master P and the rest of the No Limit guys, man? Like, you know, some of the guys you had good relationships with.
It was a beautiful thing. Every time we came around, I said to give you a physical description. I was kind of like the Mac 10 on the Body movie, where I showed up when it was just time to really do that. So I didn't grow up with those guys. They from New Orleans. I'm from Baton Rouge, but I'm raised by a man from the Ninth Ward of New Orleans. So I've been going back and forth to New Orleans since a child. And of course, you know, with my granddaddy going back and forth to the veteran hospital. So I had a love and kind of brought up in both of those worlds. But of course, you know, naturally more hood and street rooted in Baton Rouge. So later on in life, we conjoined our forces and day one, A1 with everybody. It was a beautiful thing. And to this day, we still a band of brothers and sisters. You know, everybody got their differences and so on and so forth. That's life and that's business. But at the beginning and at the end of the day, it was always an honor and a pleasure to even be welcomed into that circle and to help catapult, you know, my life dream, man. So yeah, that's all.
Right. Did Master P ever want to sign you at one point, or?
I said to you like this. He never said it to me verbally, but the first time I went around No Limit, he opened up everything to me and showed me what he was doing. And I was getting the street room and the homies was saying, hey man, you know P want to sign you. So I got a call one night to go meet him myself outside. I'll be with Loke some of the time when they was together in New Orleans, but I'll stay in the car. If I wasn't formally introduced to nobody, I was never no yes man or no groupie type of guy. So if you're not finna, that's your partner. You see what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
so we formally introduced, I stay out the way. So one day, you know, P off of personal interest gave me an invite to I didn't know the No Limit headquarters was in Baton Rouge for a while. And
Mm,
eventually it wasn't too far from me, and I had a chance to go up there and check out the outfit and see what it was. So he kind of put everything on the table for me. And, you know, I went home, I prayed about it, talked to my mom and pop, and said I might sign with this guy, Master P. But of course, I was in a situation with the Hamid local. So I didn't know what their business was all together and all that. So a lot of that I tried to stay out the way of and stay an artist and stay focused while I was building in the background. So the rest, we eventually all had to come to terms because that's how phenomenal that record became, and eventually the remix onto the world. So yeah, that's the evolution of it. Yeah,
that's dope. That's
yeah, man.
dope. That's dope. So y'all, I mean, y'all left on good terms. So that's always a good thing. And
But the thing
so,
is, the sad part about it is, you know, and being honest, you know, me and Loke hadn't spoken over 20 years. It's the NWA thing with us. I was the Ice Cube of the clique that signed the same situation with that Ice Cube signed a Priority Records leaving the WA. So I left the concentration camp, you know, and we had a lot of things going on that we tried to keep off of TV and off the tabloids and stuff like that, keeping it in the family. That strayed us and a lot of
mm,
us. So I didn't like that part of it. You know what I mean? It strayed us from No Limit. It strayed us from our brothers in the camp. And, you know, we got our inner beefs and just different things that the TV got yet to know really took place. You see the face and the smiling faces when we take a picture. But behind the scene, we was all suffering from what we all crawled so far to get to. And once we got there, it's like putting the lights on, everybody kind of scattered and went their own different direction. So that
dang,
part, I had plans and other ideas as a team. But what I learned was you can't hold nobody's hand, you can't think for the next person. So like Q said, I saw it coming. So I went solo, you know what I mean, and stayed solo. But I didn't start solo as a kid, even in the fourth grade. Shouts out to my brother Darian Williams. We had a group called Silk and Slim based off my cousin OG Silk and Slim. You know, it's a member of the nation now that's out with supporting love and supporting the George Floyd family. Shouts out to George Floyd brother PJ. I watched him grow from the Southside Wrecking Crew into the Nation of Islam, and I'm real proud of him around the world. Yeah, right now when you cut on the news, he's one of the guys standing behind PJ with the mask on, man. So
mm,
that's a long way from home. And what I knew, this guy was in Angola at 16 years old. We thought it'd be
ooh,
dead and gone, and you know, from the Southside Wrecking Crew on into the LA Rolling 30s Crips. One of the first guys I saw with a blue 6'4", the switches got stuck in our town. He used to ride down the street like this.
damn.
That way. So, you know, that whole evolution, you know what I mean, morphed me into what I am to this day based on those guys and them principles and morals, man.
Absolutely, man. That's a well, you got some history and some stories, man. My question is, okay, so after that peak of success right there, like how do legends like yourself still eat in the industry? You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, God is good all the time. You hear me? Like I
Hmm.
said, I knew that record was gonna be a big record, but I had no idea how big and how long. You see
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Nobody wants to be a one-hit wonder. So, like you asked a good question earlier. Yeah, I had a plan for 1,000 records, and I still got 1,000 records and still pushing independently. So only God could fly a frisbee that far and that long. You see what I'm saying? So I take no credit for myself. I give all glory to God. I always say that, and it's just following my same method to the madness, man. I'm raised and baptized in the South Baton Rouge Southern Baptist Church. You know what I mean? So just I always kept God in my life, and my great grandmothers and all that type of thing. They installed that in me. So I learned, you know, from Genesis to Revelation, that song is like I say, it's the glue to God in that sense, in that form of communication. From
Mm.
any slave, anybody pick cotton, you know, when you couldn't talk to nobody else, you hum your pains to the Father, and hopefully He answer your prayers. So yeah, have my prayers been answered? Yeah, phenomenally, all but 3 decades in the industry. You see what I'm saying? From where I came from, and a dream state, just having a dream and a vision, and just staying on the same path, man. Of course, you know, it's new day, new way, but it's always something old and something new. I mean, as beautiful as a tree is, you can't forget that small seed it started from. So don't forget your roots. So I stick them out, keep my feet on the ground like Casey Kasem used to say, and keep reaching for the stars, man. And when we
Absolutely.
say it's no limit, I say guard the limit. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So people still call you for shows and tours and you know what I mean, all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
And
that's the blessing. For records and everything. And like I say, it's prize merch. There's so many ways to get paid. Like I say, on I Smoke, I Drink now. So it grew me into a businessman, an entrepreneur for that matter. You know what I mean? Where I don't have to just focus on one thing dying down and I can't
Mhm.
get into something else, you know what I mean? So yeah, just following up.
So is there any collabs you want to do in the future with any artists or
Yeah.
you like working solo or what?
Now, what I learned, I'm a Gemini, man. So I see things, two ways. You know what I mean? You can get with this and you can get with that. So I always been open to that because again, I'm a fan first to the music. So it's still
Absolutely.
OGs that I looked up to. I had the honor, I can go through a list of guys from the East Coast to the West Coast, the Midwest, that I didn't had the chance to become brothering with over the years. So it's some of them that's not making records anymore. The Dougie Freshes, the Crucial Conflicts, we working. So anybody that I had the opportunity to reach out and touch, definitely. You see what I'm saying? And as well as some of the young generation. So I don't put it in a box, man. I have to say it's eternal and it's infinite. So we can minus the plex. Yeah, it's a lot of guys I love to work with, but what I learned in time, everybody don't want to work with you or got funny ways, and you know what I mean. So I'm more entitled to the guys that pick up that phone for me, that we didn't show life support over years. The Big Mics, the Sebo, Yuck Mouth, Spice One. You see what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
my body of work kind of say for itself. If you see me and David Banner, whoever on the record, we all got history somewhere on the lines. We cross paths, and whoever put it down with me, those are guys that put it down. Minus a lot of guys that I tried to do this with, and underground and mainstream over the years. So yeah, that's my daily routine, man. I'm trying to pick up where I left off last and continue the mission.
That's dope, man. That's dope, man. Well, I think we got it about wrapped up, man. For the most part,
Yeah.
I'd love to have you on here again, man. We can get into some other subjects as well, man. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on right now, and
Not cutting you off, but for the record, let me add this would be so much, man. If I don't write this down, I'll forget certain things. But shouts out to Banging 832 Radio in Houston. I'm a co host along with Southern Bell and High Risk over there at the station. I'm on every week on New Music Tuesdays. I do 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central, 4 on the Pacific, on the West Coast, 4 p.m. But on Tuesday nights, New Music Tuesday, and I do the Throwback Thursday. So I'm on that twice a week. They run 7 days a week. So y'all tune into that. And it's just another plateau for this new day and time that give me an avenue to and give people a avenue to get more up close and personal, to ask questions. You can call in. We also do a visual thing too, you know what I mean? Like how we doing at Zoom or what have we not. So
absolutely.
and we spread, man. So I'm getting in where I fit in, too short to say it the best. So I wanted to throw that in as the one thing I forgot, and along with everything else, social media wise, IG and Facebook, you name it, you can't miss me.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask you how people can keep in touch with you. What's your IG or your Twitter? You probably don't do Twitter. What's your
Yeah, I
IG?
got the Twitter too, man. I hold
Okay,
it
okay.
9, man. Yeah, I ain't trying to turn down nothing but my collar, so saying that to say this. Um, you know, for
Yeah.
Facebook fans, man, it's on the Young Bleed fan page on Facebook. If you're on Twitter, it's at Real Young Bleed. Instagram is The Real Young Bleed. And as well as www.trapdoent.com is the label, the website for the latest and the greatest, the tour dates, the merch, and so on and so forth. And anything else, social media, you Google me, man. I'm all over the place. You know what I mean?
All right, all right. One more thing. Any new projects except for what we got going on?
Oh, wow, I'm glad you brought that up.
Big
We just
shouts out
got
to my man Cisco too, by the way, man.
yeah, definitely. Look, and you too, Spook, man. And you're a part of both of them. I've been working on the Dare is a God album that I'm finna drop before the year is out. preferably in the next couple of months. And you have some production on there. I gotta actually send you a track to finish mixing that for this record. I'm getting the mixes and master for that record. We just finished a phenomenal compilation called Welcome to the Trap that highlights some of the artists that supported trap during the time. Both of those records are 17 songs. You know, guys, ain't too many people doing that nowadays, but that's
That's
34
true.
records within the next couple of months, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So, and all the artists is working on their solo based records. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, man. We stand busy over here.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Yes, sir. So
Absolutely.
look, man, I'm sure you got things to do. I got things to do, man.
Yeah, off to the races, man. After this, to be continued.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
To be continued, man. I appreciate y'all for listening with your host
Uh,
with the Black and Brilliant podcast and our guy, Young Bleed, man, the legend, dog. And we are checking out.
peace.
All right, peace, brother.
Yes, sir.